Hi, I'm Beth Baldwin, and I will be your tour guide today. I'd like to introduce you to the team, our tour director, Ann, and our motor coach driver, Ed. And we're going to have some fun showing you the sights and sounds of North Beach and Fisherman's Wharf, and many other things. So I want to start by asking you a bit of trivia. How many of you actually think North Beach was a beach? For those of you that think the answer is yes, you're right. San Francisco North Beach used to sit on the northernmost part of the San Francisco Bay, surrounded by water. Now, since that time, it's been filled with landfill, but at the time, it was called the Barbary Coast, and it was ground zero for the gold rush. So people came from all over to get rich, to meet people, and it was called the Red Light District. So a lot of history there with North Beach. But as we sit on Montgomery, I wanted to show you to the right, you'll see the iconic Pyramid Building. At one time, it was the largest skyscraper in San Francisco, and since that time, it's been passed by the Salesforce Tower, which is actually the 13th tallest skyscraper in the United States. There's also a Salesforce Tower in London that competes somewhat with the Shard, which is new, and it's actually charged twice as many floors as the Salesforce Tower. The Shard and the Pyramid have a lot in common architecturally. They're both pyramids, they're both made of glass, and they're beautiful, beautiful buildings. So as we meander our way down on Montgomery, we're going to hit our big street, which is called Columbus Avenue, and it really is the intersection of Montgomery, North Beach, Chinatown. And it's a conglomerate of people, food, cultures, you name it. So first we're going to see Washington Square Park, which is the oldest park in San Francisco. There's over 200 parks here, and it's an old park and it's a landmark, historic landmark. We're also going to see the St. Paul and Peter's Cathedral, which is considered the Italian cathedral of the West. And many things have happened in this cathedral. One of the things that comes to mind is we have a very famous baseball player that I'm sure you've heard of named Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio was born here, was married here to his first wife, brought his second wife, Marilyn Monroe, here to live in North Beach with him, and he died here in St. Peter Paul's Cathedral. Washington Square Park, at any time during the day, you'll see people gathered here for picnics. On the financial district, people come up in their suits. You have Chinatown people coming in. So it's a really conglomerate of the blending of cultures. And you have at the intersection of Grant and Columbus, the intersection of Chinese and Italians, which are a big part of making North Beach what it is today. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the food. So the food is some of the best in the world, Italian food. All the foods are great here, but the Italian foods really rock North Beach. One place in particular is called Original Joe's, and it's quintessential Italian. And they have a dish called Joe's Special, which I'll tell you about. It has 6 ingredients, and I make it some. It's super easy. You have ground beef, onions, garlic, spinach, and eggs. Mix it all together, cook it, put it over pasta with a big slice of sourdough bread, and you have a great meal for yourself. So Italian food can be easy to make, and is some of the best food around, especially have time to go over to Original Joe's. So another part of this is I didn't want to leave Northeast without mentioning the early in the morning. If you come early, you walk around here, you'll see these little parks. There's elderly Chinese men and women practicing their Tai Chi. It's a form of martial arts, and it's internally focused, and it's just a really cool sight to see. Now, as we go along, we're headed toward Telegraph Hill, which is one of the 7 original hills in San Francisco, where San Francisco was built on 7 hills. It's one of the oldest. At the top of the hill, you'll see Coit Tower. Now, Coit Tower has, without a doubt, the most panoramic view of San Francisco. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge, the Bay Bridge, and all the surrounding areas. It's absolutely beautiful. But what I love about Coit Tower is when you walk in the lobby, the murals there. There's 25 murals of pictures depicting the regular California working class people during the Great Depression. And it's kind of an art fresco type style, and they're really beautiful. So here's a famous story. The Coit Tower was dedicated by, her money was dedicated by Lillian Hitchcock Coit. And she was a woman of the times, and she really broke all barriers. She cussed, she played cards, she smoked cigars. I mean, she was quite a handful and quite a wealthy benefactor and loved San Francisco. She also loved the firefighters. And in fact, one of the reasons she loved them so much is 9 years old, her family was burned out of her house, but they saved her and her family. So she always had a special affinity for firefighters. And if you look at the top of the Coit Tower, it looks like a fire nozzle. That's because of her love and dedication to the firemen who she had a special affinity for. And I thought that's kind of a cool story. So if you listen carefully, as we head down to Fisherman's Wharf, we're going to take a right on North Beach and left on Taylor. You'll hear sounds coming from Pier 39. They're called sea lions. So believe it or not, in 1989, after the Loma Prieta earthquake, hundreds of sea lions showed up at Pier 39 out of the blue, and they've been there for 20 years. So the sea lions are wonderful, wonderful, and fun to watch. They're mostly men, mostly males. They are very smart and playful. They live to be old. They live to be about 25 years old or older. But they will bite if provoked. So you have to kind of be careful around them. But they're really fun to visit, and especially for young people. And, you know, you can go feed them and watch them and that kind of thing. As we go down that street, we'll see a building, an area that I love so much. It's called Ghirardelli Square. Ghirardelli Square was named after an Italian chocolate making family that came over. And they first went to Stockton, California, because that was really in the middle of the gold rush. And they were hoping to make a quick buck there too. But most of their enterprise was done in San Francisco. Now, even today, it's not used as a factory today. Their factory to make the chocolates out in San Leandro. But Ghirardelli Square is a beautiful area where you can see people lined up to get ice cream sundaes, but you can also go to restaurants here, hotels, little shops. I mean, it has everything. There is a cool story about the lights, though. You can see the very big lights there. At one time, the lights were on both sides, but people in Pacific Heights, which is a very rich area, a neighborhood, kind of a Tony neighborhood, complained that the lights kept them up at night. So they only had to take the lights off one side and leave it on one side. So you'll see the lights, and it's always a sign that you're in the Ghirardelli space. Next door is the cannery. So the cannery also has been around for several hundred years, and they canned all of Del Monte's food. So Del Monte is one of those iconic firm companies in the Bay Area, and there are many of them. So there's Wells Fargo, there's Levi Strauss, there's, as I mentioned, there's Del Monte, and then there's the tech firms such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, Uber, Lyft. And while there's some talk that some of these firms and companies may be moving out of the Bay Area, I think we'll always have many, many companies who choose to do business here because of the workforce. It's an incredible workforce because you have such great universities out here. So you're always going to attract really great talent. It's kind of like the gold rush. People come to California because of new ideas, opportunity, entrepreneurialism. So I think it's always going to be with us. If you look over Ghirardelli, you'll see a place called the Buena Vista Bar. And the Buena Vista Bar is fantastic. It is, once again, several hundred years old. The bartenders in there have been around, have worked there for 30, 35 years. And they make something called Irish coffee, which is famous. And this is how they make it. So they take 28 glasses and line them up on the bar. They put hot water in all of them. Then they pour the water out. And that keeps the glass really hot. They put coffee in it, 2 cubes of sugar, Irish whiskey, and they top it off with cream. And it is delicious. So how many do you think they make a day? The answer is 2,000. So 2,000 Irish coffees a day. And you can get it without alcohol, and it's worth a visit. So I want to kind of, as we start wrapping up, I want to talk about things you have to eat here. So you've got to have a bowl of clam chowder and the bread bowl. It's fantastic. It's quintessential San Francisco. You know, they're all over the place. You can get them, and they're really worth it. So clam chowder and the bread bowl. And the other thing is the Dungeness crab. So the Dungeness crab is caught in the Pacific Ocean. The crab season's from November to February, and it's a great time to grab some Dungeness crab. one of the things that I found interesting is that people have crab meals during the holidays. So November for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Eve, they serve crab at their plates, in their dinners. And so I thought that was a kind of cool and interesting thing about how people use crab in their meals out here. So as we end this tour, I wanted to ask you kind of what you thought about. What did you like best? What could you see more of? What would you have any other questions about, whether it's history, beauty, food? Let me know. And I want to thank you for your time. Have a good day.